What is up, guys? Welcome back to Cop Logic. It is January, the transfer window is open, and we've got some transfer news to look at today, including the validity around these stories popping up about Michael Olise and his links to Liverpool Football Club, but also something I think that's worth sticking around for. Pretty cool story, more recently breaking, involving OLISE ITAKURA of Borussia Mönchengladbach and his links to Liverpool Football Club. But first, I'm going to take a look at this Michael Olise story. So the story originally broke via Davo Cop, but has since been picked up by other outlets, including Footy Insider, who suggested the Liverpool Football Club are actively scouting Michael Olise, and then the Liverpool Echo, who said Crystal Palace forward Michael Olise has reportedly been scouted extensively by Liverpool as the club draws up plans for life after Mohamed Salah. Now, in terms of the validity of these claims, Davo Cop, who broke the story originally, was prolific in the summer transfer window. A lot of what he said came to fruition, and he picked up a decent reputation, you know, previously fairly unreliable, but actually did pick up a decent reputation last summer via some of the stories that he broke. Now, in terms of this and its validity, I do believe that Liverpool are scouting Michael Olise. Whether that means we sign him or not remains to be seen. Before we talk about that, let's take a look at some stats. So you will have all seen him, obviously plays for Crystal Palace, but he's 22 years old, which is the perfect age for a Jurgen Klopp signing. He's got 5 goals in his last 9 appearances, plus 1 assist, so that's 6 goal involvements in 9 games, which is really good. He's having a great season, despite the fact that Crystal Palace are having a bad season. He generally plays right wing, which would be perfect for rotation or replacement of Mohamed Salah, and he's got a solid set piece, which we don't necessarily need, having Trent Alexander-Arnold on the team, but it is an extra asset to consider. He's currently valued at around 50 million euros, so you'd expect 45 to 50 million pounds unless we got into a bidding war, which I think can be expected. You know, Chelsea tried to buy him in the summer, and you know, he's certainly going to be on other clubs' radars as well. But there is a slight caveat in there that I will talk about in a second. First of all, though, you know, I hate to be the bearer of bad news when we talk about the validity of these claims. I do believe, as I said, that Liverpool are scouting the player, but whether we buy him, I don't think it happens. You know, Palace definitely won't sell in January, so you can rule out any sort of January signing for Michael Olise. And in terms of whether we were to pick him up in the summer, well, that would depend on, first of all, Mo's extension. Does he extend his contract, and does that affect us looking for a right winger? I don't think it does. I still think we'd need to bring someone in, because you would ideally want to have someone there to rotate with Mo before you just bring someone in as a straight one-on-one replacement. Mo out the door, a new right winger in the door. So I don't think that necessarily rules it out for a summer signing, but then you've got to ask yourself whether or not it's the right signing to replace Mohamed Salah. Now, I think one way of looking at this is, well, you can't replace Mohamed Salah. We're not going to buy a winger that's going to offer us 20 goals per season. It's just not going to happen. There are, you know, Mo Salah's one-of-a-kind player. There's no one else out there that we could just straight replace him with anyway. We don't have to replace Mo Salah. What we have to replace is Mo Salah's goals, and that can be stretched out across the front three. If you can bring in a winger that can work well with the likes of Darwin, with the likes of Diaz, and even Diogo Jota, then what you need to create is a front three that can cover for those 20 goals between them. Doesn't necessarily have to be a right winger that comes in and can score 20 goals, because let's face it, that's impossible. So looking at his goals and whatever, you might be thinking, well, that's not good enough, it's not going to replace Mo Salah. It definitely doesn't have to. We just need to get someone that fits the Jurgen Klopp system well enough that we can replace those goals across the team as a whole. You know, we've already got players in midfield that are scoring goals now. We never had that previously with Jordan Henderson and James Milner, etc. So I think it's definitely possible to replace those 20 goals via the team itself rather than as one single individual. So in terms of whether this is possible for the summer, he does have a release clause and it does activate in the summer. So there is definitely a chance that this is a deal that could get done in the summer. He previously had a release clause of 35 million, and Chelsea actually activated that release clause last summer, and then he decided to snub them and extend his contract at Crystal Palace, which was definitely the correct decision for Michael Olise. So fair play to him there. He's got the right people around him. We've seen this with Romeo Lavia and even with Moises Caicedo, that their agents and the people around them clearly didn't care enough about their career and sent them to Chelsea, which, let's face it, was a sinking ship at the time and continues to sink. So he definitely made the right decision in not moving to Chelsea, which is a good sign that he's got a good head on his shoulders and he's got a good team around him. Now, what that does mean is that 35 million release clause is now gone because he extended his contract. The rumor is there is a release clause in this new contract though, but it will be expected to be much higher than the 35 million. We don't know what that number is, but it's promising that there's a release clause, because that means if Liverpool do want him in the summer, they can just activate that release clause and take him without any of the hassle. I doubt Chelsea will be back in for him just because he snubbed them in the summer, and they're definitely petty like that. We've seen them with Romeo Lavia, that whole saga with Liverpool. They're a petty club. I don't think they go back in for him just because he snubbed them. So again, that's promising, less competition, but I don't think Chelsea will be the only competition. So let's wait and see what happens. But I do think it's one to keep an eye on for the summer. Moving on to the more interesting story, and that is Ko Itakura. Now, this story was broken via Fabrizio Romano, so you already know it's got the reliability factor to it. And he said, Ko Itakura is one to watch in 2024 as top clubs are monitoring the Japanese centre-back. Understand Liverpool have sent their scouts multiple times to follow Itakura's performances. Tottenham also monitored him as Ange Postecoglou wanted Ko at Celtic. Release clause is not valid until January, and there are no details on a fee for that release clause. But similar to Michael Olise, it won't be something that can be activated until the summer. So in terms of his stats, he has a 15 million euro value. There's no word on the price of the release clause, as I said, but you know, if we wanted him in January, it's possible to get him. He's still very cheap in terms of centre backs. You know, 50 million euro valuation, we could expect to maybe pay between 15 to 20 million pounds for him, and that wouldn't be that bad. But there is obviously going to be competition, according to Fabrizio Romano, from top clubs. We know one of which would be Tottenham. We do know that Tottenham are looking for a centre back, having been linked with our own Joe Gomez. So this one, to me, it feels like a Jurgen Klopp signing. You know, he's Japanese, he's relatively unknown, he's a bargain price, and he's in the German league. We've seen Klopp do this already, most recently with Wataru Endo. But there is that interesting stat around Jurgen Klopp that every title he's ever won is had a Japanese player in the squad, from Shinji Kagawa at Dortmund to Takumi Minamino, and now hopefully Wataru Endo, and maybe he's trying to double his chances there by bringing in Itakura. I don't know, but it definitely feels like a Jurgen Klopp signing. He's currently at Borussia Mönchengladbach, but has previously been on loan from Man City to various clubs since 2019. I think City bought him for a fee just over 1 million, which is, you know, a very City-like thing to do, and then just send them out on loan to a bunch of clubs. He is a left centre-back, but can play both left centre-back and right centre-back, and has played as a DM in his time, so he's got that little bit of versatility in him there. He's had 7 appearances so far this season, and he's got 2 goals, which is not bad at all for a centre-back, and he actually has the best headed goals per 90 of the entire Bundesliga this season, which again, I think is really impressive for a centre-back. That means you're getting a centre-back that's got a bit of a goal threat about him, and he's a threat on set pieces, so, you know, that's something actually that we could do with adding back into our game. It feels like we're not scoring as regularly from corners as we used to. He's 6'1", so he's the same height as Inacio, who's another player we've been linked to in the same position, and I think this is the position we most likely buy for in January, so it'd be interesting to compare him to Inacio and see what the better deal is. He's certainly much cheaper than Inacio, but the downsides are that he has far less experience at the top level, and he's older at 26 years old, where Inacio is 22. Now, a huge downside and a reason why I can't see this happening in January is that he's Japanese, and as we know with Endo, you know, he's leaving for the Asian Cup this month. So if we were to buy Itakura in this January transfer window, we wouldn't even get him in January. The chances are Japan go all the way in that competition. They're one of the best teams in Asia in terms of the national sides, and he does play for the national side, so he would definitely be off to the Asian Cup. And not only is it a downside that means we don't get him in January, but you never know what happens in that tournament. He could pick up an injury. We could buy him now. He picks up an injury in the Asian Cup, and then we don't actually get him as a player, and it feels like we've been robbed almost. It's a waste of money. So that's a big risk, and it's whether or not that's worth a risk worth taking, or do you just go for Inacio, who actually has a release clause of 52 million. It's a lot more than you would pay for Itakura, but at the same time, he's got far more experience, he's younger, and he can come in straight away, and he can start straight away as well. So for me, I do feel like Inacio is probably a better deal overall. And finally, I've got one more story for you that I didn't even bother putting in the title. It's a little bit of an extra if you've managed to stay this far into the video. The reason I didn't put it in the title is because I'm sick to death of this story coming up, but let's take a look at it anyway. So there was a tweet from That's Football yesterday, which you might know as Mark Goldbridge's outfit, and they published a story that originally came from Le Parisien that Liverpool are a serious candidate in the race to sign Kylian Mbappe. The France captain is not indifferent to the Premier League side's interest, whilst Real Madrid's hardball tactics may ultimately prove counterproductive. Now, we're not buying Kylian Mbappe, which is why I've not bothered to clickbait this in the story, in the title of the video, but I thought it was worth covering very briefly. Le Parisien do not have a good reliability rating anyway, so I wouldn't, you know, I say I'd take this with a grain of salt, but take this with a bag of salt. Like, it's it's not happening. He would be a free agent in the summer, and he's free to talk to clubs in January, so this would be a signing that we'd pick up in the summer if it was going to happen. But, you know, a free agent does not mean a free signing. There would be a fee to pay to the player up front, and on top of that, his wages are astronomical. The only way this would ever happen is if we sold Mohamed Salah, and even then, it still wouldn't be enough because Mo's wages aren't even enough for Kylian Mbappe. He'd have to come in as the highest paid player at Liverpool. I don't think that's going to happen, and I don't see him taking a giant pay cut just to join Liverpool. So this is one that's just not going to happen, but it's also one that's not going to go away until he eventually moves to Real Madrid. So I wish, for everyone's sake, that they just get it over with. Anyway, there's no chance this happens. He's not taking a pay cut. It's not happening. Let me know what you guys think about the Michael Olise story. Would you want him at Liverpool? Do you think he's the right replacement for Mohamed Salah and OLISE ITAKURA, or Gonzalo Inacio? Which one's better for Liverpool? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And as always, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not already for all your transfer news and updates throughout this January transfer window. We're going to be right on top of it. We're going to be covering it all the way until that window closes. So as always, give us a like. It does help us reach more people, and we will see you guys in the next video. Peace.